Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak to you on the impact of artificial intelligence on the future of banking. When you look around what's happening across the world, globalization driven by emerging technologies and some of the social challenges have meant that organizations across the world have had to invest in technologies to make sure that they do not just reimagine themselves, but also keep up with some of the challenges across the world. And this is not different to banking. For example, in the past few years, you've noticed that the banking space has accelerated its digitization strategies. This is to keep up with some of the challenges, for example, remote working, to repurpose their staff to keep up with some of the emerging challenges, but also most importantly, to keep up with a new reality where some of the customers have been impacted financially, and therefore the only way to offer discounted products or services is to make sure that operational costs are reduced so that this price can be cascaded to the customers. And at the center of this reimagination is artificial intelligence. What do we mean when we speak about AI? Artificial intelligence is an area which deals with making processes, systems, or even machines execute functions with the same intelligence as human beings. This could be speech recognition, speech generation, decisions, generation of language, or even interpretation of language. But when we normally speak about AI, we cannot forget machine learning and deep learning. Machine learning is a subset of AI that allows machines to learn from a lot of data, complex patterns, identify these patterns, and make decisions with minimal human supervision. Then deep learning is a subset of machine learning that is motivated by the structure of the brain. And the brain works on layers of neural networks, hence the reason why they are called deep neural networks. The capabilities or abilities of AI combined with the ability to learn from data and the reasons why organizations need to transform and leverage these capabilities are the reasons why we're seeing a lot of organizations invest in AI. As an example, SPD recently published that $12 billion will be invested by 2021 by the banking sector, especially in the areas of AI. I just went through a survey or a publication by Forbes recently, which stated that 98.8% of organizations are looking into leveraging AI to keep relevant and keep up with the challenges that are happening across the world. If you need further convincing, 80% of organizations, especially in the banking sector, are already aware that AI will provide a competitive advantage with streamlining or automating some of the processes. And they expect in the next 3 years, 78% of their functions will be automated. Now, McKinsey recently published that if done very well, the AI market in the banking sector could reach almost $1 trillion per annum, with most of opportunities in the marketing and sales area, as well as the risk space. This means that every single financial institution has to leverage AI as a strategic enabler to keep up with some of these challenges. But what are some of the opportunities that are available where AI will help these organizations reimagine themselves? And they will start all the way from the time organizations acquire customers. Global transformation and technologies have meant that digitization is just not a nice to have, but an expectation. And therefore, from the time of onboarding, customers want to be self-savvy and digitally onboard. And as we speak, up to today, only 5% of financial institutions have complete end-to-end digital onboarding. Now, digital onboarding can leverage biometrics enabled by machine learning and AI to upload and verify documents. But let's also not forget that financial inclusivity has been a challenge for the banking sector for a long time. And we can learn from Uber. For those of you who don't remember, when Uber launched, 40% of drivers in New York had challenges with onboarding digitally. And the main reason for this were the customers or drivers who were not banked at this point in time. Uber did not want to be a bank. What Uber did was to leverage technology to allow these drivers to access the banking services. And therefore, through technology, the banking system can make sure that banking services are accessible across the world. What about risk management and compliance? The finance industry spends $270 billion per annum on compliance and risk management. This is almost 10% of the revenues they generate per annum. Let's not forget, they spend a further $200 billion in the form of fraud losses. Now, machine learning algorithms have the capability or ability to identify anomalies or patterns out of customers' behavior and proactively flag these incidents to allow the bank to proactively prevent these losses. But beyond flagging these incidences is the way the banking sector also performs risk management. And in the process of risk management, the organizations have to collect customers data around the customers, put together views, and almost create a forensic review that guides them to decision making. So for example, at F&B, we built an AI system called Manila, which has streamlined this process, reducing a process that used to take hours or days to less than a minute. So a forensic report is generated by an AI system within a short time, allowing forensic analysts to focus on human tasks like quality assurance and making decisions. AI is also playing a major role in helping organizations transform from outcome-based decisions to behavioral risk management. What do I mean by this? Traditionally, these organizations depend on risk-based models. In other words, you get a score, which is an outcome, and use it to make a decision, a risk decision. This means that behaviors have already happened. Behavioral risk management is transforming this by allowing organizations to drive behaviors that result to desirability, especially at a time where there's very few good customers or customers are going through challenges. So behavioral risk management allows organizations to help identify those attributes through machine learning approaches such as reinforcement learning, which looks at a customer as an agent, puts them in an environment, and you reward for good behaviors that lead to desirable outcomes. For example, this is very applicable in credit scoring. Instead of getting a score that you decline or accept a customer, you could identify attributes that will allow a customer to become a good customer and reward them for the actions that lead them to become a good customer. This is not going to be different for climate, of how financial institutions will handle climate risk, model risk, and other types of risks. But also, these approaches are important in driving contextual access to programs. We've always said, okay, it's good to offer a customer the right product at the right time at the right place. Yes, but we're at a time when all organizations are accessing products and offering products to customers every single day. What is the differentiator? AI enabling organizations to not only predict the time, but to also predict customers' reasons why they invest. For example, Movent Bank leveraged behavioral risk analytics to identify attributes that would align to reasons why customers invest. For example, customers will invest to save, some of customers will invest to travel, and by linking behaviors to the reason of investment, they saw an uptake of savings and investments products by over 40% of their customer base. Now, engagement is also being reimagined. Chatbots and voice assistants are helping organizations meet the digital expectation. The customer of today wants to access products immediately, get responses. And what you see there, for example, on the left, Clio is a UK-developed chatbot that allows customers to inquire about products, access utility functions like balances, and even understand their profile. Clio has the ability to recommend products, remind the customers about utility spend like debit orders as well as payments. And then what you see on the right is Alexa's, which has the ability to create a humane experience while interacting with the customer and providing these services. Now, what about payments? The future of payments is being reimagined. Customers of today want to be identified for who they are and how they spend. So instead of always going with a card to a shopping center, think about walking into a shopping place and biometric capabilities help the bank identify you, go to your profile, and even recommend you to aisles where you normally go shop. But what's most important is that you'll see mostly in China and the Amazon Go stores is that during the time of fulfilling your purchases or making payments, you are able to use your biometric features to fulfill your payments. This way, customers don't even have to worry about fraud and things like that. Now, we now talk about trading floors. A few years ago, Financial Times published that robots have entered the bank's trading floors. And the reality is that robots have the ability to collect a lot of information from various sources, whether it's how the markets are behaving, economic factors, customers' behaviors, and to help traders fulfill some of these deals. And a very good example is UBS is an example that has worked together with Deloitte to develop AI systems that are helping fulfill preloaded deals. This way, it allows traders to deal with some of the most complex scenarios in the trading environment. So beyond robots assisting traders on the floors, AI is also helping with advisory. Think about this. $8.1 trillion worth of assets are being managed by robo-advisors today. And this is not because human beings are not good at providing advice, but it's because there's so much complex interactions around data, around trends that are helping organizations make investments. And the same thing happens for customers. For them to receive the best advice on how they should manage their assets, how the economic conditions are changing the value of the assets, as well as what is the right movement of information that is needed for them to make decisions. AI is enabling that. While human beings are much spending their time with dealing with more of the complex tasks or even new emerging risks that customers need assistance with. And if you need further convincing, this is UBS's trading floor. In 2008, this floor is so big that you could fit 23 basketball courts in it. What you see on the right is the new operating model where AI systems are helping reimagine everything and allowing the actual human beings to focus on more important things. But while we invest in technology, cybersecurity becomes even a bigger issue, which every organization is thinking about. This means that organizations are investing in technologies to protect the interactions which are being driven by a lot of data, interactions which are being driven by having partnerships driven by technology to provide holistic solutions to customers. And therefore, quantum computing will be at a center stage of providing security through encrypting these interactions. Now, to just wrap up this conversation, traditionally, the banking space has driven innovation by adopting technology, by overlaying the traditional savings or investment or borrowing products on top of technology. To drive contextual experiences, these products and services will be embedded behind emerging technologies like AI and machine learning to make sure that organizations are providing a banking experience, a contextual experience to the banking environment. And therefore, the question from me to you is that, is your banking taking and meeting the AI challenge? Because if you don't take this seriously, the future might not turn out as you expect. Thank you so much.